I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jeff, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years now. We met in college, fell for each other pretty quick, and I thought we had a good thing going. She was smart, funny, a little bitchy at times, but I always figured that was just her personality. I was the guy who worked his ass off to keep things stable, running a small business, volunteering at the local community center, trying to make a difference in our town. Honestly, I loved the idea of us being a team, building something steady and real. At first, everything was perfect, or so I thought. Lisa was supportive, even proud of what I did with my campaign for the local council. She'd come to my events, help me knock on doors, make signs, and act like she was genuinely into it. But little things started creeping in that I didn't really notice at first. Small, odd behaviors. She'd be a little more distant after I got home late from a town hall meeting, or she'd snap at me for no apparent reason. I chalked it up to stress or her being typical bitchy Lisa, but as the months went on, I started noticing other things. She'd suddenly be really interested in her phone all the time, texting under the table, hiding her screen when I walked into the room. And her excuses, God, her excuses, were always so transparent. "It's just my sister," she'd say, or "some friend from work needs me." But I knew she didn't really have friends like that, not the way she was hiding her phone. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I wanted to believe she was just being her usual bitchy self, maybe tired, maybe stressed. Plus, I didn't want to be that guy who freaks out over every little thing. Then came the night I found the first real clue. I was home early from a fundraiser, and I decided to surprise her with some takeout. When I came into the apartment, I saw her purse on the kitchen table. Normally, she kept her stuff pretty organized, her keys, wallet, phone all in the same spot. But her purse looked different. It was slightly open, and I saw a glimpse of a lipstick I didn't recognize, a shade I'd never seen her wear. That was odd, but maybe she'd been out with some other women. Yeah, I told myself that. No big deal. I kept my cool, grabbed the food, and went to sit on the couch. As I was watching TV, I noticed her phone sitting on the counter buzz incessantly. Usually she'd let it go, but tonight she kept glancing at it, her eyes darting, her fingers twitching. I decided to check it out when she went to the bathroom. I wasn't proud, I know, but I felt something was off. I unlocked her phone and immediately saw a string of messages. It was from someone named Tom, and the conversation was more than just friendly banter. They were talking about meeting up, about sex, about plans that definitely weren't about community projects or politics. No, this was about her cheating on me. I couldn't believe it. My stomach dropped and my mind started racing. How long has this been going on? Who is Tom? How could she lie so effortlessly? I was furious, hurt, betrayed all at once. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I sat there in silence, scrolling through more messages, and I saw the photos she sent him, those little flirtatious shots, the "can't wait to see you" types. And here I was coming home with her favorite pizza, thinking about how perfect we were. Yeah, right. That's all gone now. I sat there in the dark, clutching her phone like it was a bomb about to go off. My mind was a whirlwind, anger, confusion, heartbreak, all tangled together. I couldn't believe she'd been lying to me. All those late nights, all those business trips, all those times she told me she was working late at the office. Turns out she was with Tom, planning their next encounter. It felt like my entire world had just shattered into a million pieces. I knew I had to confront her. I didn't want to do it right then, not in the heat of the moment, but I couldn't just pretend I didn't know. I waited until she came out of the bathroom, her hair wet, her face looking fresh but nervous. She knew I'd been digging. I could see it in her eyes. "So Lisa," I started, trying to keep my voice steady, "who's Tom?" Her face froze, the bitchy smirk plastered across her face, slipping just a little. "What are you talking about, Jeff? You're imagining things," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice cracked. Her eyes darted around, trying to avoid mine. "No, you're not," I shot back. "I found your messages, all of them. The ones where you're planning to meet him, the sex, the lies. You think I don't know what's been going on?" She scoffed and crossed her arms. "You've got no right to accuse me. Maybe you're just insecure or jealous because I'm better looking than some guy you think you're so superior to." That was her typical bullshit: deflect, lie, deny. I couldn't believe how she was trying to turn it around on me. I felt my blood boiling. You're damn right I'm jealous. How could you do this to me? After everything we've been through, you're out there sneaking around, lying, cheating. How stupid do you think I am? She rolled her eyes and huffed. You're overreacting. I don't know what you saw, but I swear I haven't been sleeping with anyone. You're paranoid. Maybe I just talk to people online. Doesn't mean I'm cheating. You're making a huge deal out of it. Nothing, nothing, nothing. I was sick of her excuses. She was a master at lying, but I could see right through her. I'd spent years trying to build something real, and now I was staring at a woman who thought she could just brush this off like it was nothing. I told her I'd seen enough, that I needed some space to think. She sneered, told me I was overreacting and that I was just insecure. But I knew better. I knew this wasn't just about some flirtation online. It was about her betraying everything we'd ever had. As I walked out of the apartment that night, I felt like I was losing my mind. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was tired, but because my mind kept replaying everything. The lies, the secret meetings, her bitchy attitude when I brought it up. I kept asking myself how she could be so callous, so manipulative. I felt sick, betrayed, and yet part of me still wanted to believe it was all some horrible mistake. But deep down, I knew the truth. Lisa had been cheating on me, and she was lying her ass off to cover it up. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I tried to act like everything was normal, but inside I was unraveling. I'd catch myself staring at her, looking for any sign of remorse or guilt, but all I saw was her bitchy smirk, that condescending look she gave when she thought she was winning an argument. She kept insisting she wasn't cheating, that I was just being paranoid, that Tom was just a friend. Yeah, right. A friend she was planning secret meetings with behind my back. I didn't buy it anymore. I decided I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to slip up again, so I started digging deeper. I installed a hidden app on her phone, something I never thought I'd do, but at that point I didn't trust her at all. I needed proof, concrete proof, so I could finally confront her with the truth. I kept checking her messages, her calls, and I found more texts, more flirtatious, more suggestive. Their plans to meet at her favorite hotel, the times she'd sneak out without telling me. Every new piece of evidence made my stomach churn, but I forced myself to keep calm. I knew if I lost my temper, I'd just make everything worse. One afternoon, she left the house to run errands, or so she said. I knew better. I followed her. Not to stalk her exactly, but just to see if she was really out running errands or if she was with Tom. Sure enough, I saw her get into a car with some guy, definitely Tom. They drove off toward that same hotel I'd seen earlier in her texts. I couldn't believe she was so brazen about it. She didn't even bother to hide her tracks anymore. That night I sat alone in the dark, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I kept replaying her lies, her sneers, the way she tried to gaslight me every time I confronted her. I'd always thought Lisa was a little bitchy, yeah, but I never imagined she'd be capable of this level of betrayal. The woman I married, the woman I loved, she was out there screwing around with Tom, planning more sex sessions, all while pretending everything was fine. I felt like my heart had turned to stone. The anger simmered beneath the surface, but it was overshadowed by the crushing sadness. How did it come to this? How did I go from feeling like I had the perfect wife to realizing I'd been living with a cheat, a liar, someone who thought she could get away with everything? I kept asking myself that, and every time the answer was the same. I was blind, desperate to believe she was better than what she really was. That was my mistake. That night I made a decision. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with this. I needed to confront her once and for all, but I also knew I had to plan carefully. I wanted to catch her in the act, show her I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I didn't want her to walk all over me, no, I wanted her to face the truth. And when she did, I was going to make sure she knew exactly how much she'd destroyed. The confrontation finally came sooner than I expected. I had everything ready, screenshots of her messages, the evidence of her meeting Tom, all laid out in my mind. I knew she was planning to meet him again that night at that hotel. I decided I'd wait for her there to catch her in the act and finally put an end to her lies. I watched the hotel parking lot from across the street, hiding behind a row of bushes. It was dark, cold, and I felt like my heart was pounding out of my chest. I kept checking my phone, making sure I had everything ready to prove she was cheating. When her car finally pulled up, I saw her slip out, looking nervous but trying to act confident. That bitchy smirk was still there, the one she always wore when she thought she was winning. I stepped out from my hiding spot and called her name loudly. She froze, then spun around, annoyance flickering across her face. "What are you doing here, Jeff? Are you stalking me now?" "No," I said, voice trembling but firm. "I've had enough of your lies. I saw you with Tom tonight. I saw you go into that hotel, and I've got the proof right here." I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots of her messages, the plans for sex, the times they'd agreed to meet. Her face drained of color, but she quickly snapped back with that bitchy attitude. "Oh, come on, you're the one who's crazy. You're so insecure, Jeff. Maybe I just talk to people online doesn't mean I'm cheating on you." I shook my head, feeling the rage boil over. "You're full of shit. You've been lying to me this whole time. I gave you the benefit of the doubt, but I see now that I was just another fool. You don't care about us. You're just using me, playing your games and cheating behind my back." She crossed her arms, trying to act superior. "Look, Jeff, I don't have time for your drama. You're just being paranoid like always. You think I'm stupid, that I'd leave my career and reputation for some stupid affair. You really are delusional if you believe that." I felt a strange mix of fury and heartbreak. How could she be so cold, so dismissive? I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she'd hurt me, but I just stared at her, disgusted. "You're a liar, a selfish, manipulative liar. I don't know what I ever saw in you. Maybe I was blind, but I'm done now. We're done." She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, then shrugged. "Fine, whatever, Jeff. You're just jealous because I'm better than you at everything, especially in bed." That was the last straw. I turned and walked away, feeling like I'd been punched again, only this time it was worse. Because I knew she'd been cheating on me, lying, and still had the nerve to act like she was the victim. I couldn't believe I had wasted so much time, so much effort, on a woman who didn't care about me at all. All I wanted was to believe in the person I married, but she proved me wrong. And now, I had to figure out what to do next, how to pick up the pieces of my broken heart and figure out if I could ever trust again, or if I just needed to walk away and start over. After that night, everything changed. I knew I had to make a decision, and fast. Seeing her there, so dismissive and manipulative, made it clear that she wasn't going to change or own up to what she'd done. I was angry, yes, but mostly I was hurt, so deep I didn't think I'd ever recover from it. The betrayal cut like a knife, and every time I tried to sleep, her face haunted me, telling lies, smirking as if she'd already won. I spent the next couple of days spiraling through every emotion: anger, sadness, confusion. I couldn't believe I'd let her get away with this for so long, that I'd been blind to the signs. I kept replaying everything, questioning how I missed the clues, how I ignored the red flags. The worst part was realizing how cheaply she'd played me, how she'd lied to my face about her friendship with Tom, all while planning sex sessions behind my back. Finally, I decided I needed to act, not just emotionally, but practically. I couldn't keep living in this state of shock and disbelief. I started looking into lawyers, figuring out what my options were, because I wasn't about to stay with someone who had so little respect for me. I also reached out to a couple of friends who knew about the situation. I didn't want to face this alone, even if I hated the idea of exposing all this to others. It was a hard week. I'd wake up every morning feeling numb, then get angry all over again. I'd see her name pop up on my phone and I'd get this instant rush of nausea. I knew I had to cut her out of my life completely. I told her I was leaving, that I couldn't stay with her anymore, and her response: she told me I was overreacting, that I was crazy, that I was just jealous because she was more successful in bed. Classic Lisa: deny, deflect, insult. I packed a bag and left that apartment for good. I didn't want to be near her, to hear her bitchy voice or see her manipulative smirk. I needed space, clarity, and most of all, to get away from her lies. I stayed at a friend's place for a few days, trying to breathe, trying to process what had happened. Every moment away from her felt like a small victory, but I knew the real work was still ahead. I realized I'd been a fool, thinking I could fix her, thinking love alone could keep us together. But all I got was betrayal, lies, and a mountain of shattered trust. It hurt like hell, but I knew I had to move on. Not just for myself, but to learn from this experience. I had to rebuild my confidence, my sense of self-worth, and figure out what kind of man I wanted to be moving forward. Because if a woman like Lisa could do this to me, then I had to ask, what other lessons was life trying to teach me? It's been a few weeks now since I left Lisa, and honestly, I'm still finding my way through the wreckage. Some days are better than others. The anger has faded mostly, replaced by a dull ache of disappointment I don't see going away anytime soon. I thought I knew her, thought I knew us, but I was blind. Looking back, I see all the signs that I ignored, all the times I brushed off her bitchy attitude or her excuses. Now I realize I should have listened closer, paid more attention to the little things that mattered. This whole experience has taught me a lot about trust, about boundaries, and about how someone can betray you even when you try to see the best in them. I used to believe in loyalty, in fighting through disagreements, but what Lisa did was a different level of betrayal. It's made me more cautious, more guarded, and honestly, a little more skeptical of the people I bring into my life. I don't think I'll ever completely trust someone again, not until they prove they're worth it. But there's also a strange sense of relief. I'm finally out of the toxic situation that was draining me emotionally. Now I have the chance to focus on myself, rebuild my confidence, and do the things I enjoy without the shadow of her lies hanging over me. I've started working out again, reconnecting with old friends, and thinking seriously about what I want from life and relationships in the future. I don't want to be that guy who gets played again, but I also don't want to shut myself off completely. Looking back, I wish I could tell that version of me, naive, hopeful, blindsided. That betrayal like this can happen even in the most perfect relationships. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to get back fully. But I also know it's part of life. You live, you learn, and somehow you grow stronger from it. I'll carry this experience with me, lessons learned the hard way. So here I am moving forward. I do have all the answers, and honestly, I probably never will. But I do know that I deserve better than betrayal, better than lies, and I've learned to see the warning signs before they become disasters. I'm not perfect, and I'm not sure I'll ever trust again easily, but I'm confident I'll find someone who values honesty, loyalty, and respect. And when I do, I'll hold on tight, not because I don't trust, but because I've learned to recognize what's worth fighting for.